All right. Today we're going to be talking about solving radical equations. So now that you are all such geniuses at simplifying, right? You're like a simplifying radicals like expert now. Now we're going to go into the realm of solving, right? This is going to be your favorite thing. But anyways, um, this is something that should hopefully, cross your fingers, not be that difficult. So think about this. My goal here, so let's write down a goal. My goal here is to get the x by itself, right? So that's going to be my goal, get x by itself. Okay, so my goal is to get x by itself. So whenever we're solving, we always want to get x by itself. That's like, this is not new information, yeah? You're like, oh, duh. So how would I get x by itself? Well, in this case, I am going to subtract 5 from both sides. Again, not new, right? So I subtract 5 from both sides. I'm left with the square root of x equals 13 take away 5 is 8. Hopefully you knew that and didn't need a calculator. And now you say, okay, well, how do I undo, or what is the inverse of a square root? Well, the inverse of a square root, I don't like, we're going to use a different color. Inverse of a square root is taking the square, and what you do to one side of the equation, you have to do the other, right? And so then my final answer is x equals 64. You're like, oh, well, that wasn't so bad, right? Now think about this just for a minute. The square root, and I take the square, and I'm left with just x. Did I reach my goal? Did I get x by itself? And yes. Now, let me tell you a secret. When we're doing these, I want you to always check the solution. And the reason that we are always checking the solution is because sometimes the solution doesn't work out, okay? And we'll talk more about that in just a minute, all right? So we're going to check. Does the square root of 64 plus 5, so sorry, I'm having technical difficulties, plus 5 equal 13, right? Well, the square root of 64 is 8 plus 5. My 8 is dysfunctional. I don't know what happened. Does that equal 13? So here's the question. 8 plus 5 is 13, and that equals 13. So it checks out. Good deal. Okay. All right, let's look at the next one. Now, of course, we're going to start off with the easy one, and then we get a little bit harder as we move along. So let's pick 2 different colors. I don't know. All right, here we go. Now, again, my goal is still to get x by itself. So I'm going to add 7 to both sides. Like, ooh, all right. Add 7, and I get negative 5 times the square root of x. These cancel off, equals, negative 15, like my calculator noise. All right, so then what do I have going on here? What does this say? What operation is available here? This says negative 5 times the square root of x equals minus 15, right? So how do I undo, or what is the inverse of negative 5? I have to divide both sides by negative 5. And I divide both sides by negative 5. And I really meant what's the inverse of this multiplication, and that is division, right? So these cancel off here on the left, and I'm left with the square root of x, yes, equals positive 3, okay? And how do we undo that square root? Well, we undo it by taking the square, squaring both sides, okay? So I undo the square by undo the square root by squaring it, and I get x, see, I had a boo-boo on my paper, x equals 9, okay? Again, you always want to check your answer, so I'm going to do that quick, and I say negative 5 times the square root, throw that 9 in there, minus 7, does that equal negative 22? Do the math, and you should get negative 22 equals negative 22. Okay, so I ended up with negative 22 equals negative 22. All right, so that checks out. Now, let's look at this definition I have going on right here. So it says, an apparent solution that may be rejected because it does not satisfy the original equation. This is what we call an extraneous solution. So let me spell that out for you a second. It is supposed to go on this line. I'm so sorry I didn't leave room here. So it's EXTRA extra NEOUS. This is why I teach math, because I don't spell so good. SOL. Okay, so an extraneous solution is a solution, so you get an answer that must be rejected because it does not satisfy the original equation. So what I mean by this, sometimes you're going to get an answer that when you plug it back in, it doesn't work. This is why I tell you that you must check your answer, okay? And it might not work because sometimes when you square something, you might get a different answer than what actually works in there, okay? So this happens, and this will happen. I'll show you when it happens, and you'll be like, oh, okay? And that's called extraneous, all right? Okay, so let's do a couple of more problems and see what happens, okay? All right, so let's zoom in. All right, here's the next one. So look at this. Remember, always look to see what is there, right? We want to undo addition, subtraction, undo multiplication, undo exponents, or square roots in this case, okay? So I'm going to undo my addition first. I'm still left with 4x plus 2, 19, 16. Okay, then I'm going to undo my division. Okay, then I'm going to undo, I'm going to use a different color, undo my square root. Then I'm going to finish it up. Okay, again, check your answer. But before all of that, before I check my answer, maybe, let's see, where do I want to write this? Let's do this. Okay, so here is sort of a little tip. When you're solving an equation, you're going to do your undoing using PEMDAS backwards. So notice what I did. I did my subtraction first. So you're going to undo any addition or subtraction first. Then you're going to undo any multiplication or division first. Then you're going to undo any exponents, square roots, so on and so forth. Then you will undo any parentheses first, okay? So when you are solving, and if you think about this, this should kind of make sense because when do you use PEMDAS? You use PEMDAS to simplify. So I simplify using PEMDAS. Well, what's the kind of the opposite of simplifying is solving, right? So to simplify, you're sort of like kind of putting it all nice and neat. Well, when you're solving, you're sort of pulling it all apart, right? So think about that. When you're solving, you're going to undo things. You use PEMDAS backwards. You undo sort of in that direction. Okay? All right. All right, I hope you were paying attention because I wasn't. 16 minus 2 is not 18. 16 minus 2 is 14. So I plugged in that 14. Well, actually, I plugged in the 18 and then it became a mess. So then I plugged in the 14, got 16, ended up with 19 equals 19, and we are happy. Okay? All right, so let's try the next one. So here we go with the next one. Yes, this is on the other side. If you don't like it, then move it around, but get over it. Okay. Remember, we're going to do PEMDAS backwards. So I'm going to add first, right? Excuse me. -5 square root of 4x minus 9. And then do I have any multiplication over here? And the answer is no. Do I have any division? No. So then I take the square root of both, or I'm sorry, the square of both sides because it's square root. The inverse of square root is square. And I say 4x minus 9. Forgot the minus sign. I'm trying to do this fast. I'm rushing. We should never rush. This squared is positive 25. Please do not let the calculator fool you. And then plus 9. I'm hoping that you already know how to do this. 25, 35, 34. I'm really on the struggle bus with this video. Okay, this should be a plus sign. Plus makes this a minus, which gives me a 16. Yep, 16. It's a mess. This is a mess. All right, let's keep going. 4x divide by 4. And I get x equals 4 on my chair. Okay, now check it. See if it works. Okay, so equals square root of 16 plus 9 minus 1. -6 equals square root of 25 minus 1. -6 equals 5 minus 1. Watch what is happening here. -6 equals, what's 5 take away 1? 4. Here is where we talk about the extraneous solution. Because we did this correctly, I promise you, we did it right. Okay, just trust me. We did this correctly, and we got 4. But then we plugged it back in, and look what happened. It didn't work. So this is an extraneous situation where an apparent solution that must be rejected, I need to reject my solution because it does not satisfy my original equation. It doesn't satisfy my original equation, so it does not work. So no solution. Okay? And this happens, and it's okay when it happens, all right? Now, I am going to make you show your work on both of these. Make sure you check your answers. Pause the video, come back. Okay, so here are your two answers. If you are Miss Trans Honors, make sure that you show your work. If you do not show your work, you're not getting your points. And that's all I got. Sorry, this video was sort of a disaster. But yeah, good luck. Cheers.